Hey guys, how you doing? So I just wanted to share something with you today, which I stumbled upon yesterday. It's a post by Ryan Holiday. You might have heard of him, and it's a post about a book review which one of his supposed fans has written. And the reason I wanted to share this with you is because there's so much rich insight we can take from this particular post and the comments and the behavior of Ryan Holiday in this instance, which I think says a lot about my motivation for embarking on my own individuation journey and to understand more about the mind as a way to eliminate suffering myself, help others do that as well. And a large part of what I see to be some of the primary issues with the modern world, the modern mind, how people are approaching their lives in the modern world. And more generally, like the issue with spirituality as it's seen today generally, or what I might call pop spirituality, which is essentially entertainment disguised as something wise. So what we have here is, there's so much in this. It's a post by Ryan Holiday on Instagram, which is, it would seem an email maybe or some kind of message. See, it's not actually clear who it's from or the context, but it appears to be someone making a comment about Ryan Holiday and a recent book which he's either released or about to release, and saying something that's somewhat critical of Ryan Holiday, I should say. I don't know him personally. I don't think we're on first name terms. And then it's Ryan Holiday responding with his critique of this review, followed by a series of comments, many comments, hundreds of comments, I believe, last I checked, several hundred, mostly of people very much supporting Ryan Holiday's view. Let me preface this by saying I don't know a huge amount about Ryan Holiday. I've read two of his books, I believe. I think it's Ego is the Enemy and The Obstacle is the Way. I've not read any more recent ones. And I'm not a huge... I don't know a huge amount about Stoicism. I know a little bit. What I understand about Stoicism is that it is a set of teachings that are essentially a way of life, that it was put forward by many Roman thinkers, Marcus Aurelius being one, Epictetus clearly being another here, which is mentioned in this book and this review. And what I do understand about it is that it does have a lot of overlap with some of the things I say, and interestingly, a lot of what Buddhism says and what a lot of world religions say. That's no coincidence, right? Because these are all essentially ways of life, or can be construed in that way, ways of life for understanding, for conduct, and for mental discipline as a way to ground us in the world and to give us the tools to eliminate our own suffering. Well, that is really how they can work. Give us an access to the spirit, to the metaphysical, to what is beyond our ego or our sense of self. And so Stoicism absolutely, I would say, falls under this banner of spirituality generally. And although the way that looks at a surface level may differ quite significantly from something like Buddhism or from Christianity, they are essentially serving the same purpose, and they comprise of similar components. For example, they have three cornerstones. They have a method for understanding, a way of grounding ourselves in the world, not least of taking responsibility for the mind. And this, as I understand, is a huge part of Stoicism. If anything, it's like emphasized more than the others, perhaps. Like it really starts there. And that is completely in line with Jungian psychology and my own approach to life. Is like, number one, take responsibility for the mind, habit one. And so beyond that first cornerstone, they also have elements of conduct. Like, what does ethical conduct actually mean? And why is that important? And what do we actually do? How do we speak? What does skillful communication consist of? And I don't necessarily mean just communication that gets us what we want. I mean communication that is harmonious and is free of craving and aversion and is truthful. So there's that conduct element. Thirdly, there's mental discipline. Like, what are we actually doing to manage our state of mind, to stay grounded, to stay aware moment by moment of what's happening? And do we have a dedicated practice associated with that, like meditation most likely, or prayer or active imagination or things like this. So when measured against that yardstick, I would say Stoicism absolutely looks like a form of spirituality, because it's really ticking all those boxes and is ostensibly there to act as a vehicle towards wholeness. It's a method and a model and a framework for bringing people out of a self-focused ego consciousness into a more whole and integrated consciousness, ostensibly. So I think it'd be quite hard to make a case that that isn't what Stoicism is trying to achieve on some level. But I'm certainly willing to hear such a case, and if I've got it completely inaccurate here, then I would like to know. But it does seem that a lot of things I mentioned are the kinds of things that people are interested to get out of Stoicism. So the actual content of this review, this post, and Ryan Holiday's response is relevant here, but I'm not going to go into it in huge detail. But essentially, this guy is a fan of Ryan Holiday who was very disappointed to hear that he had written a book about Epictetus, a male Stoic, except rewrote it with Epictetus as a female. And so this chap here, I presume it's a chap, and that's actually not irrelevant. We'll come on to that. But I think 99% likely this person is a man or a male who wrote this, but we don't actually know that. So let's not assume. Now, he's talking about it's bad enough, underline some of this, with all the white male bashing, which this person is presumably experiencing and not enjoying very much. And it is nice to have a bastion to get away from it all. I mean, I admit it's a slightly humorous comment. A bastion to escape the white male bashing. Why does one need a bastion to escape it is probably quite a useful question to ask oneself here, in the interest of taking responsibility for the mind. But nonetheless, let's work with it here. So you have an epic tale of bravery and temperance, and Epictetus was definitely a white male. It's not really relevant to us. Apparently that's questionable, but okay. I saw no need to feminize him, to pretend he was a female. Females have their own stories to tell in history. This was a great disservice to Epictetus and shameful. So, quite sort of referring this to my own framework of the 7 habits of individuation. Like, there's a lot of judgment in here. There's a lot of like judgment words, like shameful, like this is bad. And of course, any good Stoic will tell you, I would think, that if we're judging the world, it's actually pointing to something about our own mind, right? And this is really, a fundamental understanding if we are to move our minds towards integration. So I can only regard this as playing off the political climate to make a profit. And it makes me see through a different set of lenses. This will never reach Ryan Holiday, but maybe someone else will read and shake their head in unison, like I'm now picturing someone writing about Epictetus as a female. This makes absolutely no sense and can only be to play on feminizing men, telling little boys that not only do they have to be men, but they can be girls also. I'm not against, okay, this is interesting, I'm not against anyone and don't have any phobias, but you could have written a story for the females without trying to turn Epictetus, one of the greatest philosophers ever, into a female. I just quit. I'm flabbergasted. Shake my head. So we don't necessarily need to analyze this till the cows come home. You can hear there's a lot of judgment in this comment. There's a lot of story. There's a lot of ego narrative, right, about why Ryan Holiday is doing this, and he's doing it to capitalize on a profit-making motive, so on and so forth. This makes absolutely no sense. This can only be a play to feminize men, telling little boys that they not only do they have to be men, but they can be little girls also. I'm not actually sure what that actually means, but there's a lot of labeling that's going on there. And of course, the thing with labels is we don't all have the same idea of what a label is. That's kind of, in some ways, the point of it is that it's really a concept. Telling little boys that they can be girls is kind of an arbitrary comment. I mean, what does that really mean? So I just wanted to point out that, you know, there's a lot that is disintegrated about this comment, and yet I'm sure we've all been in a mindset where we felt like just completely like how this guy might feel right now, and like writing something like what this guy is writing. Let's go on to Ryan's response. Or maybe I wanted people with daughters to have a book that spoke to them too. It's also more historically accurate than you might think. Epictetus's philosophy teacher, Musonius Rufus, was controversial in his own time for believing that both men and women should be taught philosophy and that virtue didn't have a gender. That's not really a case of historical accuracy. That's just sort of alignment with the worldview of Epictetus' teacher. He's not saying that Epictetus could have been a woman. He's saying that women can be taught philosophy. It's quite a different point. Nonetheless, nor would I be so certain that Epictetus was a white male. Fair point. Like in real life, he was born a slave in what is modern day Turkey. Okay. So Ryan Holiday is fighting back, and I do mean fight. You know, he's I think maybe feels slighted by what this other person has written. But then it is interesting, isn't it, to look at like why he's actually writing this. Like, what is he really doing? What is his real? Why is he doing what he's doing? Right. This is mindfulness. This is clear comprehension. This is understanding the real cause of one's behaviour and what's arising in one's mind, and then the effect of whatever decision we then make on that. And often what happens is if we're not actually conscious of the cause, the ego, whether you believe it's the enemy or not, serves a purpose of rendering reality to us in such a way that we then make an explanation for what we're then doing. It's like the split brain experience, if you've ever heard of those, where they would split the brains of epileptic patients and then like give an instruction to the left side of the brain and ask the right side of the brain what it was doing, and it would actually confabulate a reason. And so what we say are the real reasons we're doing things often aren't. So let's carry on with this comment. So it's almost certainly not white. Okay, is that really relevant here? As we're told repeatedly of this swarthy complexion, and his name literally meant a quiet one. But look, if this little artistic choice in a work of fiction upsets you before the book was even out, Epictetus addresses that too. Whenever you are offended, remember you are complicit in taking offense. Kind of. I mean, as Jung said, projection is something that happens to you. It's not really something that you do. It's something that the mind does as a way to make sense of reality. But here's the thing. Let's consider Stoicism in the light of a spiritual practice that actually bears fruit and actually delivers results insofar as it helps one move towards wholeness, integrate their mind, exist peacefully in the world. Is that actually what we see Ryan Holiday doing here? Is he practicing skillful communication? Is he speaking the truth? I mean, he's not consciously lying, but some of the stuff he says is a bit logically questionable. Is he saying what is necessary? In other words, is he speaking from a whole place of mind, or is he speaking from craving? I would suggest he's actually speaking from craving here, because he's kind of pulled this review up from this anonymous guy, put him on a pedestal, posted his review publicly to thousands, millions of people, and then he's decided to take him down with his community behind him. And he hasn't actually really taught this guy anything. He's actually taking an opposing stance. Like, he's not behaving like a spiritual leader would behave if that person's actually trying to facilitate this person's growth. What he's really doing is he's trying to make this other guy wrong, which actually is, although it's often done under the guise of I'm doing this to help you, that's actually an ego narrative. Like, really what is happening here is he's trying to make this guy wrong, whether it's because he feels like he's engaged in some kind of fight. Like, there was a post some time ago which he made, which I commented on, where he was basically tacitly saying admitting that he views his career as a fight, and that he's against people, and that if he's not fighting and being an absolute perfectionist, then there's going to be other people who are fighting harder for what he wants. And so you can see that there's actually this quite combative mindset coming through, even though it has a veneer of intellectualism and a veneer of like, I'm just sort of pointing out the truth here, actually it is actually trying to make this guy wrong. And we can, certainly look at the unwholesomeness in the original review this guy wrote, and we can point that out. We can skillfully help this guy to hopefully see a part of his mind he's not yet seeing, and his own motivations and his own storylines and ego narratives behind what he's written. If we just simply fight him, take the opposite stance, that's not going to help this guy evolve and develop in a way that a spiritual framework such as Stoicism is ostensibly intended to do. So here we go. He finishes, wherever you are offended, remember you are complicit in taking offense. Well, it's not like he's choosing really like on a conscious level, but yes, he's correct in that there is an aspect of this guy's mind that feels impinged upon when it sees a book that is written about a female based on a character that historically was male. And I think there's a comment maybe lower down we might see that someone wrote something like, Epictetus was a male, and there's nothing wrong about writing a similar story inspired by him that has a female character, and that's totally fine, but that it is a little disingenuous to use the same name and make it so patently based on this guy and just make it female. Like, it's like, why are you really doing this? Is it really about female empowerment, or is that actually kind of like a cover for some other motivation? And I think there's a lot that we can glean from this. So ultimately, the real reason I'm sharing all this with you is because this is a real, very concise, potted summary of why I am motivated to do what I'm doing, which is to shine a light on aspects like this, and to hopefully help people attain to a kind of spiritual self-sovereignty where they move beyond this just unquestioning following of a teacher, when that person themselves has very little apparatus with which to actually decide and discern whether this teacher is generally moving them beyond a certain stage to spiritual self-sovereignty. It might take them to a certain stage, but like all things in life, everything is a vehicle and everything is a trap. And whether a particular community or framework is a vehicle for you or a trap for you will depend on your own level of development. And there will come a point where a vehicle like Ryan Holiday's branded version of Stoicism is a vehicle to the next level of your growth, but there'll also be a time when it then becomes a trap and you start doing things that are completely antithetical to your own spiritual growth and thinking things that are completely opposing to your own spiritual growth. So I made a comment here as well, but we'll come back to that. I'll explain why I wrote what I wrote there when we come back to it, but let me just clear some of this drawings off. So let's take a look at the comments. Awesome response. We can always count on you. So if I was, from what small spiritual community I have, I don't want people to count on me always. That's not what a spiritual leader who is genuinely interested in growth wants for their followers, as it were. Always is a problem. Count on you is a problem. So it's the first comment. Maybe there'll be some others. And a red heart emoji. So again, if this was someone in my spiritual community who was looking to me for leadership, and maybe there weren't 8,000 comments for me to sift through. So, to be fair to Ryan, he doesn't have all the time in the world, but I would then relay a comment to this person saying, that's wonderful, but remember, I'm not always going to be here. And I'm not the point here. I'm just a mirror. I'm just here to help you see what wisdom you have inside yourself. I'm not giving you anything. I'm just merely pointing things out or asking the right questions and helping you to see what's inside of you, because that's all I can do. As much as I would love to just pull a lever and eliminate any suffering for you, it's just not the way reality is configured. So that's not going to happen. This guy, I don't have any phobias, but, so, he's pointing out a truth. Is it true that this chap on the left is seeing aspects of his own shadow in what Ryan has written? Yeah, it's true. Is it useful to say so? Potentially, depending on the context. Is it kind? Well, I don't think this is a particularly kind comment. I wouldn't say this was well intentioned. I would not say this was said with a heart of loving kindness, to quote the Buddha. It's essentially trying to put the other guy down. So let's keep going. Bro is definitely against people and has some phobias to deal with. He made that crystal clear. Well, I'll just point out something here, which is maybe not so obvious, but we don't know this person is a bro. We don't know that he's a man or it is a man. Sure, he's taking a stance for maleness, and Epictetus being definitely a white male in his view, and that he's had enough of all the white male bashing. But that doesn't mean he's a man. It doesn't necessarily mean he's a man. I mean, it makes it very likely, I would say, but it doesn't mean he's definitely a white man. There are many women of all demographics, female demographics, who also make a stand for men or masculinity in general. So this is very interesting, because it's an incredible irony in the fact that we and this group here are bashing and pointing out this person's flaws, as though we are coming at it from a place of community and wholeness and desire to attain to group harmony. And yet, in light of all that supposed open-mindedness to all people of all races and all genders, we ourselves are projecting a man onto this person. And like I said, it's very likely he's a man, but there's no actual proof in this review on the left that this person is a man, none whatsoever. And I think that's an assumption that it would seem virtually everybody here has made. And so it is, interestingly, proving the very thing it's set out to disprove. And this is often the way, like when you learn Jungian psychology, one of the things you learn is that things are not often not what they seem, but things are often the precise opposite of what they purport to be. And there's reasons for that, right? It's because it's by virtue of trying to compensate for some kind of polarity. And the more you step back from it and the more you integrate your mind, the more you see how polarized the modern world and the minds of most modern people are. Like, unbelievably, but not unbelievably, but very, very polarized relative to how they can be in an integrated mind. An integrated mind doesn't need to make comments that are derogatory to people. It doesn't need to just blurt out things that are useless. And it doesn't need to wrangle with the truth either, or try and make things look a little bit different than deep down we know that they are. Because every one of these comments that is derogatory and putting people down is showing something about the mind of the person who is saying it. So let's move on. Okay, dude, I stand with Ryan. Okay. Your response is amazing. Great post, Ryan. Books like this, I think, actually help white males to not be so fragile and easily offended. White males don't know what it's like to not be represented in culture and power in the US. And many of them are defensive and insecure about it. It sucks to live life being so easily offended. And my wish for everyone is to heal and lighten up. So this is actually what we call gaslighting, because his post is actually self-contradictory. He's ended it by saying, my wish is for everyone just to heal and lighten up. But actually, the content of his post is primarily there to offend. It's intended to offend. And so I would ask this fellow here, I think this might actually help white males to not be so fragile and easily offended. Okay, as a coach, my question to him would be, what's so bad about being fragile? What would happen if someone was fragile? What would be so bad about that? What would happen to that person if they died having never dealt with this fragility? And what would happen to that person's soul? And I'd ask this person, presuming he's complicit and is genuinely setting that intention to take responsibility for his mind and cultivate wholesome intentions and look at himself, I then ask him these questions to help him to see that actually what he's doing here, he's projecting his own fragility into what he's seen this other guy saying. So the person who's, I mean, clearly there's offense on both sides here, but what this chap here is, Zach Hankins, is doing is he's becoming offended by what he's reading because he is repressing his own fragility. He is very averse to the idea of being seen as fragile and easily offended. And so, that has roots in his own personal history, possibly his parents. But he is, the reason he's fighting so vehemently for the cause of, white males being so fragile and how I'm a white male and I'm not fragile. It's like he's disidentifying with that fragility. He doesn't want to be associated with it. And the idea of it is very painful. So he's pushing it away and attacking it. So let's move on. Slam dunk. Thanks for decimating this person, even though your work speaks for itself, right? Yeah, really combating the baddies there. The lack of empathy in our society is stunning and will ultimately cripple us before long. So the lack of empathy in our society. So let's hang out here for a bit. The lack of empathy. What is empathy, right? Empathy is a couple of kinds. Well, there's really like feeling someone else's pain or really genuinely feeling what we imagine someone else to be feeling. And then there's like cognitive empathy, which is really understanding someone's situation and that motivation to help them through that. Well, if I just speak very honestly here, not that I ever wouldn't do that, but if I just say what is really quite obvious here in terms of what the elephant in the room is, that I haven't seen a single empathic comment in this whole list on the right here. So it's not that all people are like this or anything like that, but it's just this particular community that is hovering around Ryan Holiday and the culture that he's creating is actually very lacking in empathy. Like there's nothing empathic about what I've seen here. It's shadow, because what it's doing is it's insecure about its own lack of empathy, and so it's taking a kind of quasi version of empathy, pushing away people it regards as unempathic because it's not actually comfortable with its own malevolence. It's repressing that malevolence into the shadow. And so it's seeing that in the other world. And in this case, a person who we don't even know as a man, who is saying a few things a little bit clumsy and a little bit, clearly representative of his own shadow, but actually at their heart don't seem to be that malevolent or that intent on causing pain. It's just this guy has his own issues with changing a white male to someone else. And I can kind of see why that is, but I think there's a lot of ego storyline in there, because it's like, well, it's not like Ryan is just, calling Epictetus a girl. He's actually making a fictional story. So there is a bit of a change there, although I probably agree that he is riding a bit close to the wire on Holiday in terms of he's sort of cottoning onto it a bit too much, and that he is using the same name. He's not just writing a story that is just a new story with a new name. It is literally Epictetus, who is also a woman. So there is a countless number of reasons why Ryan might be doing that, and only one of them is that he's making a case for female empowerment. There are a whole host of other possible reasons, like, he sees that this is a trendy thing right now and he's going for it, and we don't know what's going on in Ryan's mind. We don't know the real reason. All we know is what he says and what he's done in the past. But one thing I think it's worth remembering here is that Ryan Holiday is, by trade, he was a PR manager for American Apparel, a clothing company. So this is someone who knows how to work public relations, right? And I think it'd be quite hard to believe that he's just suddenly dropped all the sort of somewhat deceitful communication that can come from being a PR. Okay, apologies for that slightly abrupt seam in the film there. I realized I'm using a free version of this software, and it might be something to upgrade to if I do more of these kinds of screen share videos. So I will just wrap up this video now. It's been going on for half an hour, but I just want to talk you through the comment that I wrote on this thread here, which was, if this guy didn't have any phobias before, maybe he will after reading all these comments. And then that is assuming it's a guy. So here what I'm doing is I'm trying to practice skillful communication, habit 3. So I'm speaking words that are true, because maybe he will have some phobias, right? And if he didn't have any before, then reading these comments is, what I'm saying is that these comments are likely to be possibly quite hard for this guy to read, maybe quite harmful, maybe quite triggering because of his own, because of his own shadow, but also because of the intention of the comments and how that impinges on this guy's shadow, or may well. And secondly, that is assuming it's a guy. So notice here that what I'm doing is I'm not blaming anybody. I'm not saying that anybody is wrong or that anyone's done anything wrong. I'm not trying to take a side. I'm not trying to point a finger or try and move the needle one way or the other. I'm dropping a seed which other people may choose to reflect on or may not. I'm not doing it out of craving. I'm doing it because I see that there's an opportunity to improve something here. If I was doing it out of craving, that would be more like some of the other comments you see here, which are very much like just trying to fix things, just trying to put things right, just trying to change things, just trying to get other people to my opinion, or to go with the flow of the current narrative of where I feel comfortable in the majority opinion. So what might happen here is that some people may quietly reflect on this comment. They may think, hey, yeah, you know what, there's quite a lot of malice in a lot of these comments, and maybe that's actually not wholesome, maybe that's not conducive to my own growth or this guy's growth, or maybe that's actually saying something about my own mind if I feel that compulsion to write it. And secondly, we're all assuming this writer here is a guy. And, it's interesting because whoever wrote this is making, on some level, the case that there is a bit of white male hatred here. And we're responding by saying, shut up, white man. We actually don't know what color his skin is or the fact that he's a man. So I'm sure this reviewer may not have intended this, but they've actually done something very clever here. And at least that aspect of their comment was kind of in line with skillful communication, because they've kind of like laid a bit of a bait for these people here who have come out and literally proven at least one of his original points, that there is such a thing as white male hatred, as demonstrated here by the fact that these people are hate on this guy who's apparently a guy, but actually we don't know he's a guy. So it's only our own projection that we have projected onto this character that it's a guy, and therefore something that can be shot down, right? So there is that. So that's all I'm doing here, is I'm just pointing out the reality of what is happening here, and it's not trying to make anyone wrong, but it's said in a way that anyone who's ready to evolve from this point can use this as a signpost along the way. So this is how a spiritual teacher can actually help a person evolve without telling them what's going on, without telling them where they're going wrong, but by watering the seeds that already exist within them. And this is sort of the kind of thing that I would say in my own community. If this was my community and I was seeing these kinds of comments here, this is the kind of thing I would do to help actually bring these people towards a state of wholeness, to help them complete this part of their journey, to move towards the next stage of their own individuation processes. So I'll leave that there, guys. I hope that was interesting, useful, as well as entertaining. Why not? And I shall chat to you next time.